It is March 1st, 2017, at approximately, and I'm using a watch, not digital here, so 8:52. Call it to order. And Christina, could you please call for a quorum?
Good morning. Dr. Peter Chu, Mara Ashley, Dr. Christine Whitlis.
Whoa. Was that me?
That was you.
Oh, sorry. Here.
Deborah Brown,
Here.
Here.
Dr. Leah Brew,
Here.
Karen Pines. And for the record, the following members are absent: Betty Conley, Max, Sarita Coley, Renee Launer, Patricia Lock-Dawson. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Judge King, who will facilitate these hearings. And at this point, I will turn it over to her.
That better? Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. The first matter that we will be calling this morning is Tracy Bianchi Templin. So if she may come up here to the table.
Touch it.
Thank you, Ms. Templin. We are before the Board of Behavioral Sciences this morning to review the petition for early termination of probation by Ms. Templin. This is OAH case number 2017-02-0080, and the board's case number is AP-2012-937. My name is Tiffany King. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter this morning. Prior to calling this matter in order, the board members did identify themselves and we did establish a quorum. May I please take the appearance of counsel, starting with the Deputy Attorney General?
Good morning. Melissa Seamantle, Deputy Attorney General.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Templin, you will be representing yourself this morning?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Before with the hearing and off the record, I did meet with you as well as with the other petitioners to give a brief overview of what's going to go on this morning so you know what to expect. As I stated, when we first begin, the Deputy Attorney General will give a brief history of your case, including presenting your petition. Then you will be allowed to make a brief statement under oath and tell the board any additional information you might want them to know. Then it will be open for questions by the board members and as well as the Deputy Attorney General. Do you have any questions before we get started?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Then Ms. Seamantle, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Seamantle, Deputy Attorney General. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I am here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I am here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. Your Honor, if I may approach with the exhibit packet.
Yes, please. Thank you. So I will mark as State's Exhibit 1 the exhibit packet that Ms. Seamantle just provided to me.
And a copy has been provided to the petitioner.
And I know earlier, Ms. Seamantle, you told me this is comprised of several different documents. Do you want to review what those are?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
The exhibit packet includes a letter from the petitioner to the board, petition for early termination of probation dated December 13th of 2016, along with an attachment to the petition, 3 letters of support, a marriage and family therapist intern evaluation form, 2 additional letters of support, 6 certificates for completion of continuing education courses, decision and order with stipulated settlement and disciplinary order in case number AP-2012-937 that became effective on May 22nd of 2014. The decision in the matter of the petition for modification of probation of Tracy D. Templin, board case number AP-2012 AP-937, OAH case number 2015-090759. That decision became effective on December 9th of 2015. The packet also includes the order of dismissal dated October 12th, 2016, in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Tracy Templin, board case number AP-2012-937, OAH case number 2016-070250, the notice of hearing, and the license history certification. In regards to a brief background, on September 20th of 2012, a statement of issues was filed under board case number AP-2012-937. On April 22nd of 2014, a stipulated settlement and disciplinary order was adopted by the board, which became effective on May 22nd of 2014. The decision granted petitioner a marriage and family therapist intern registration number and placed petitioner on probation for 5 years. The board issued petitioner a marriage and family therapist intern registration number IMF 80402 on May 22nd of 2014. On November 7th of 2016, the board issued petitioner licensed marriage and family therapist license number LMFT 96632. The license is valid until January 31st of 2018. The probation terms and conditions that were adopted when petitioner was an intern apply to her current licensed marriage and family therapist license. The statement of issues was filed based upon petitioner's 2 convictions for driving under the influence. Petitioner's first offense for driving under the influence occurred on April 23rd of 2007, when petitioner drove a vehicle with a blood alcohol content of 0.29%. Petitioner's second driving under the influence offense occurred on December 27th of 2008, when petitioner drove with a blood alcohol content of 0.28%. Pursuant to a stipulated settlement, the intern registration was issued and placed on state revocation with 5 years of probation. While on probation, respondent was to participate in ongoing psychotherapy at least biweekly, complete a relapse prevention program, submit to biological fluid testing, attend a dependency support program no less than 2 times per week, and reimburse the board for its probation monitoring costs. Petitioner went before the board on October 22nd of 2015 to eliminate certain probation terms. Effective December 9th of 2015, the biweekly psychotherapy and random biological fluid testing conditions were eliminated as stated in the decision in the matter of the petition for modification of probation. On March 22nd of 2016, petitioner filed a petition for early termination of probation. This petition was filed less than 1 year from the board's previous decision, so the petition was dismissed. Petitioner has met all of her probation requirements and has paid $2,800 for probation monitoring. Petitioner is now requesting that the board terminate her probation. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question petitioner.
Thank you, Ms. Seamantle. Ms. Templin, before I ask you to begin, I am going to ask that I swear you in, so if you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you for the opportunity to appear before the board and disciplinary committee to request early termination of my probation. I appreciate your time, and I am grateful to be able to share my recovery efforts with you. I am an alcoholic in active recovery. Today, I have over 8 years of continuous sobriety. My recovery journey began in the fall of 2007 when I came face to face with the reality of my disease of addiction. I received a DUI earlier that year, and I had crossed that line into addiction that we often don't know we're crossing until it is too late. I sought help for my illness, and I went to residential treatment and I got sober, and I continued to struggle with periodic relapse. I returned to residential treatment again in May of 2008, and I was able to put more of the pieces together in my recovery program. I began working with my current sponsor, and I was doing very well until November of 2008 when my father-in-law became ill and ultimately passed away. I relapsed during this time, largely due to not prioritizing my recovery process over other things in my life. I did not make recovery my first priority, and I got a second DUI in December of 2008. I entered residential treatment for the third and final time in January of 2009 to examine what was missing in my recovery program and figure out what was setting me up for relapse. I am proud to say that I have remained continuously sober since January 30th, 2009. Today, I have over 8 years of continuous sobriety, and I work an extremely active and vigilant program of recovery. I am grateful every day that I did not injure or kill someone or myself as I struggled through relapse and drinking and driving. Addiction is a humiliating and humbling experience. I am truly sorry that I endangered others as I struggled with my addiction. Today, I thank God every day for the gifts that recovery has brought to my life, and I pray every day that I not take it for granted. I want to share my rehabilitation efforts and my recovery efforts and why I believe that early termination of my probation is appropriate. The DUIs and my relapses occurred in 2007 and December 2008. Before I ever made a decision to return to school to become a marriage and family therapist. I am proud to say that I never endangered the public in my practice of psychotherapy. By the time I completed my master's in counseling psychology in August of 2011, I had more than 2.5 years of continuous sobriety. I applied for my intern number in November of 2011, and in May of 2014, when I was granted my intern number, I had more than 5 years of continuous sobriety. I am excited to share that in November 2016, I completed my licensure requirements and became a fully licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been looking forward to the next steps in my professional journey. I have been able to focus on growth in all areas of my professional and personal life with recovery at the forefront. Specifically, I have demonstrated that I am able to maintain continuous sobriety with no evidence of relapse. I take steps daily to treat my disease of addiction. These are the things that I have done and I will continue to do to support my sobriety and my recovery. I attend weekly AA meetings. I have several home groups, I have women's groups, and I have meditation groups. This is a lifelong process for me. I will always go. I am of service. I chair meetings and I tell my story. I have sponsored others. I give rides to meetings. I support others in the program, and I attend and support recovery efforts at the residential treatment center. I have been involved in fundraising efforts at the recovery home, and I attend 12-step spiritual retreats. I practice daily prayer and meditation, and I am committed to practicing a spiritual program of recovery. I monitor and I am attentive to my self-care needs. These are what I call the non-negotiables: regular healthy meals and nutrition, sleep, exercise, and permitting myself enough downtime in my schedule and attention to not overcommitting and overscheduling my life. I monitor and pay close attention to my prior triggers, trauma, grief and loss, and anxiety. When I experience triggering events, I take actions to address them. In 2011, I sought counseling on my own to address countertransference and to do the deeper work on past trauma, grief, and anxiety. When my probation was modified to remove the mandatory requirement for personal therapy, I continued to participate in biweekly therapy for maintenance. I continue to do so today. Recognizing that addiction is a family disease, my family participated in both family and individual therapy in the early years of my sobriety, and my husband participates in Al-Anon. I strongly believe in treating the family, and I am grateful that my family is a part of my recovery journey. As of today, I have complied with all terms of my probation. I completed my additional drug and alcohol education and my relapse prevention program in 2014, and I continue to take continuing education in the field of addiction that supports both my personal and my professional growth. I submitted to 17 months of biofluid testing with no evidence of alcohol or substance use. It has been a gift in my life to have so many professionals and others support my recovery and my professional journey. There are letters of support throughout my intern application, my modification request, and my elimination request, and 2 of those individuals are here today to testify on my behalf. I am grateful to Tracy Moore and Cheryl Case for the role they play in my recovery journey and for being here today to support me. Today, I have strong support systems in place, and most importantly, I know how to ask for help when I need it. Before, I was so independent that it almost cost me my life. That looks different today. I have people in my life who support me when I am challenged, and I have faced challenges and significant stressing events in my recovery, and I have proven that I can walk through life without resorting to drinking. In my 8 years of recovery, I have faced the illness and death of my grandparents, my father's cancer diagnosis and surgery, my daughter's own mental health diagnosis and ongoing special needs, significant financial constraints and stressors, and more recently, my mother's health challenges and spinal surgery. What is different today? Today, I know how to monitor my health and my own recovery. I have appropriate monitoring and accountability in place. I have a sponsor. I have friends in the 12-step program. I have therapists, and I have a strong professional and peer network. As a recently licensed professional, I helped organize and start a professional consultation group. I continue to maintain close connections with my professional network to ensure that I am committed to both professional growth and development. I have learned that we don't do this life alone. I can honestly say that I would have never asked to be an alcoholic, and I am remorseful that my disease led me to drive a car under the influence. But recovery is a gift in my life, and I am a better person for it. I am the best version of me that is possible. I remain humble and grateful that no one died or was injured as a result of my actions, and I will take whatever steps are necessary to maintain my sobriety and support my recovery program. I respectfully request that the BBS grant me early termination of probation. In May, I will have been on probation for 3 years, and I am confident that I have provided evidence that I am able to monitor my own recovery efforts and needs as I have done so successfully for more than 8 years. I believe that I have provided sufficient evidence that I am not a danger to the public and that I can practice with safety and integrity. Thank you for the time today to share my story, my rehabilitation efforts, and my recovery journey.
Thank you, Ms. Templin. Ms. Seamantle, do you have any questions?
Your Honor, I don't know if petitioner is requesting to have individuals testify on her behalf. Then I would be able to save any questions once petitioner is done with presenting what she would
Okay,
like
so you
to.
want to put her whole case on before you question her individually?
Yes, please.
Okay, is that okay with the board? Okay. Then, Ms. Templin, I believe you said you had 2 witnesses here to testify on your behalf this morning.
I do.
Would you like to call the first one?
I would like to call Cheryl Case, please.
Okay, Cheryl Case. Good morning, Ms. Case. You could please, after you take a seat, raise your right hand. You solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I'm going to need you to speak up a little louder. And there should be a little, a button which I learned is down at the base.
Okay, now you can hear me?
Much better. Ms. Case, for the record, could you please state and spell your first and last name?
Cheryl Kays, Sherylkays.
Kays. Okay, thank you, Ms. Case. Whenever you're ready, are you going to ask her questions, or would you just like her to make a statement on your behalf?
Oh, I would like her to make a statement.
Okay, Ms. Case, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you on behalf of Tracy. I am a recovering alcoholic, and I've been Tracy's sponsor for 9 years now. My sobriety date is January 24th, 1989. January is our birthday month, so I celebrated 28 years sober, and Tracy celebrated 8 years sober. Obviously, with the charges that she had that brought her into probation in the first place, it's very important that she is active in a program of recovery. And that's all I can testify today to you, is that we work closely together. She is placing her program first in everything she does. She attends meetings on a weekly basis. We have 2 home groups that we attend weekly. She's of service at those groups. She attends their business meetings. More importantly, she's available to sponsor. She takes other women through the recovery program, helps them get through their steps. She's been very active at the recovery home that she went through a couple of times. And gives encouragement and support to the women there. I've just seen so much change in Tracy. She has a very strong connection with her higher power, which for us in recovery is essential. The most I can say is in the 8 years that she's been sober, has achieved continuous sobriety, she just has been consistent. She's got a strong connection with other women in recovery that not only it becomes part of our lives. We do this for a while, and somewhere along the journey, it becomes just part of our lives. And it's woven into Tracy's fabric of her life. And I loved when she shared about, she was the active alcoholic, but alcoholism is a family disease. And I've been able to witness, especially in the last 2 and 3 years, the cumulative effects of recovery in her home, with her family, with her children. And I'm confident that Tracy's going to continue doing this because it's as necessary for her as breathing today. Very dear to me, but we have become very, very close friends, and she's a confidant to me and a trusted friend. So I would encourage the board to terminate her probation. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ms. Simiato, you want each witness to testify before you have questions?
And I have no questions for this
Okay.
witness.
Thank you, Ms. Case. You may step down. And Ms. Templin, your next witness?
My next witness, Tracy Moore, please.
Good morning, Ms. Moore.
Morning.
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And for the record, could you please state and spell your first and last name?
Tracy Moore, Tracymoore.
Okay, thank you very much. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. I think this is the 3rd time that I've addressed you guys and been able to support Tracy here. And I
So,
thank
Ms. Moore, when you're turning your head, we're not hearing you so well. So if you could be sure to be speaking into the microphone so we can hear your address. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. So I have been working with Tracy since June of 2011. She shared as well in her testimony that she came to meet with me to work on countertransfer issues that were coming up as a trainee before she got her licensure, and we have had the privilege of being able to work together over the last 6 years. My background as a licensed professional, I've been licensed for the last 18 years and have extensive background in alcohol and drug abuse and recovery. And so I was really excited to work with this case, as you can imagine, to be able to help her with her desire to address underlying issues and to continue to strengthen herself as a future therapist. And so this process has just been amazing. Of course, helping her, but also seeing and appreciating what you guys are doing and keeping the public safe and bringing true professionals into this field. I can say with Tracy, the thing that really is strongest for me in working with her and having had this time, these years with her, is her character. And she has the utmost professionalism, the utmost integrity. I mean, this is someone who is committed to her recovery process and certainly committed to her therapy process as well. As she shared, when mandated counseling was taken off of her probation requirements, there's no doubt that there was no doubt in my mind that she would continue, and of course she did. There's no, discussion of termination. This is something that she takes just as serious as her recovery process. Humility, honesty, authenticity, vulnerability, these are things that she continues to strengthen in herself. She's continuing to deal with underlying issues, has from the very beginning, and just life struggles. And it's strengthening her foundation, of course, in her recovery program, but also in her character. Life issues, dealing with, teenagers. She's got teenage twins. She has one that has mental health issues, and just going into private practice and continuing to strengthen just everything she needs to be successful in that and be the utmost best therapist that she can be, but really just the utmost best citizen and person that she can be. So rehabilitation, absolutely. I think, the extensiveness of what has been asked of her over the last 3 years, just really, she accepted it with grace and dove in deeper to just be the best person that she can be, really demonstrating her commitment to recovery, to mental health, and I think the abundance of evidence is really there for you. So I really believe that probation is not necessary for continued probation at this point to ensure certainly the continued safety of the public, her as a licensed professional. Recovery is a priority for her, and her commitment to being the best therapist that she can be. I've seen that absolutely, and just I love being a part of that. I'm honored to support her in her continued journey in life. And no doubt she's going to continue to do whatever it takes to maintain sobriety. That, as her sponsor had shared, I see that is a first priority. I haven't seen any risks whatsoever to her sobriety in the, how many years did I say it's been? 6 years that we've been working together. There's no slippery slopes. I mean, when there are issues that are challenging for everyone, such as the death of her grandfather, the death of her grandmother, her mom really deteriorating in health, these grief and loss issues are tremendous with her history, and she just dives deeper into making sure that her foundation is solid. So it is in my professional opinion that termination be granted for Tracy, and I'm open to any questions you might have to support that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Semianto, do you have any questions?
None for me.
Does the board have any questions of the witness? Dr. Chu? Ashley? Dr. Whitlisbach? Ms. Brown? Ms. Wong?
Just a quick question. So it looks like, oh, it's for you, right? Okay, I don't have any question for you, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Brew? Hines? Okay, thank you. Any additional witnesses?
No.
Ms. Templin? Okay. So Ms. Semianto, I will turn it back over to you for any questions you may have of Ms. Templin.
You were issued your MFT license in November of 2016, is that correct?
Yes.
And so you have been on probation for almost 4 months after receiving your MFT license?
Yes.
How is being a licensed MFT versus being an intern different? Or let me rephrase that. How is being licensed or being in private practice different than being an intern?
Probably the most significant difference is that I had the pleasure from 2011 on to work in an agency setting, and where I was interacting with other individuals, and I had both individual and group supervision. So I had that level of camaraderie. I had that accountability, it was a major transition. And I did not leave that agency lightly. It was a decision that I discussed with all of the people that are in my support system to evaluate the best option to go into private practice. And so, it's definitely different to be, what you said, what's different. I'm practicing by myself. I'm on my own. I have put things in place so that I don't struggle from some of the challenges that come with working in private practice. I make sure that I have regular contact with my colleagues. I was instrumental in setting up a peer consultation group. This is something that I looked at as for example, the other people that are in my consultation group, some of them have been in practice for as long as 2 years without being in a consultation group specifically. And for me, this was like not even an option. It was something I needed to happen, and I needed to have it happen immediately. I felt like I need that level of support in my life. I need people that I can run my ethical dilemmas and just, and I'm so accustomed to that because I worked in an agency setting. So I also maintain, I've done collaboration dinners and, I've just maintained my network of peers, having lunches, talking with people. This is going to be an important part of how I go forward. And to be quite honest, one of the reasons that I'm asking for, early elimination of my probation is that I'm hoping that I can open up the doors to do some different things that also allow me to continue to establish myself in my professional community, teaching, maybe some other agency work on a part-time basis. I love mentoring. I love an opportunity to share the full range of experience and education and things that I have. So that's what's different for me being in private practice. It's been like any transition, great excitement and opportunity, but also valuing the process of loss that I've gone through.
I believe either you or one of your witnesses had stated that your sobriety date is in January. What is your sobriety date?
January 30th, 2009.
You mentioned that you attend AA meetings, but have you completed a 12-step program?
You mean, have I worked my steps?
Yes.
Yes, I have worked my steps. And I've also worked the steps with my sponsees.
How many times have you gone through the 12 steps?
I think I went partially through them with 2 prior sponsors, and then fully through them with my current sponsor, and then through with sponsees. So a couple of times. 11-step is an ongoing for me. I work that one every day.
Will you continue to attend therapy sessions even if your request to terminate probation is granted?
At this point in time, yes, I would continue to. Therapy is part of my maintenance. It gives me a wonderful forum to work through any countertransference that comes up. Certainly, I have a lot of challenges in my family life with my daughter with her own mental health illness. Just being teenagers, that as well. Family issues that get triggered as my parents are aging and struggling with their own life challenges. So it's been a very supportive process for me, and I'm going to continue that.
You had attended a residential treatment program and then relapsed after attending a residential rehab program. Do you know why it is that you relapsed after attending the program?
Well, so my story is really that I went to residential treatment for the first time in 2007. I got sober. It was like I came out of the fog, in all honesty, and got my soul back. I didn't, recovery is a process. It's a journey for people, and, it comes sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, as our big book tells us. And so The first and foremost thing was that I got to realize that I didn't have to do it alone, and I got to get sober and have a small period of sobriety. I hadn't at that time worked my steps. I had a sponsor at that time that I hadn't completely connected with. There was a lot of change. I was still processing a lot of trauma from childhood that I was also trying to come to terms with as I was newly sober. And when I did not take care of myself and I did not prioritize myself, the minute I faced grief and trauma, family issues again, I couldn't maintain my sobriety. And so, I went back a second time, and at that time I was doing very, very well after going through residential treatment a second time. Started working with my current sponsor, and everything was really good for me. Most of that year, I was very proud of the work I had done, had started working my steps. And I really got kind of blindsided, I think, by my father-in-law becoming ill, because illness and I never learned how to deal with death in my family, to be honest. We didn't know. I never learned how to process that. I never learned how to work through that grief. And when my father-in-law became ill, it threw me for a loop. And what I did at that time, which was a major mistake, was I diverted all of my energy to being there for my mother-in-law, being there for my family, and processing my own grief at that time. And I deviated some of those resources away from my recovery efforts. And when I did that, I set myself up for a relapse. It only took that one moment. And when I picked up a drink, I was off and running again and filled with shame and disappointment. The good thing is that I knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed to be honest. I needed to get back in the program, and I needed to work hard. And I actually put myself, even though I was sober, I put myself into a third recovery home so that I could do some more intensive work. This recovery home had a component of family therapy that helped me a lot to bring my family into the mix. And I really looked at what was missing in my program. And there is no room for my recovery not being first and foremost. If my recovery is first and foremost, everything else will fall into place. I can be a good therapist. I can be, an excellent, wife and mother and friend and colleague and all of these things. So as awful as my relapse experiences were for me, they taught me an invaluable lesson that I have to take care of myself. I have to put myself first, and that the other issues are actually pretty manageable if I do that.
Specifically, what do you do to make your recovery a priority?
I go to meetings. I go to meetings every week. That was part of my process before I ever got introduced to the board, to be truthful. By the time I got my intern number, I had 5 years of sobriety. That didn't happen without making my recovery a priority. So, I was going to meetings at that time. I was working with others. I was active in my recovery community. I was simultaneously working on the underlying factors that contributed to my triggering events. So I was working through that with my psychotherapist. So I feel like in so many ways I had all of these things in place and working effectively for 5 years before I ever started this administrative process with the board. I certainly understand this process and the need to protect the public, and I'm hoping that what you have now got is basically almost 3 years of evidence that adds to my 5, that I am able to monitor my own self-care needs, my needs for recovery. Anything and everything that is needed to sustain my recovery. I never know what that's going to be on a particular day. I always share with clients that, we need to have a lot of tools in our tool belt. So sometimes that's calling my sponsor. Sometimes that's talking to a colleague. Sometimes that's taking a nap. Sometimes it's walking my dog. It's going to a meeting. There's a variety of things that I have that are part of my prayer, part of my recovery program. So I'll grab any one of those things when I need to shore myself up.
One last question. Have you been convicted of any offenses since you filed your petition for termination?
I have not.
questions.
Excuse me. I'm going to open it up for questions from the board. Dr. Chu, do you have any questions?
Actually, no, I don't, but I just want to say thank you for sharing your story with us and congratulations on your recovery and on your new license.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ashley? Dr. Whitlisbach? Ms. Brown? No. Ms. Wong?
Hi,
Hi.
and congratulations for getting your license.
Thank
Huge step. So, so I'm hearing your testimony and also trying to form a picture how you live your life. You have a lot of responsibilities that you need to deal with. You have your recovery program, you have your family responsibilities, a lot of the caring. Also you're running a private practice now. So I'm just trying to think about, for one, how how really, you manage and balance all these responsibilities. And the other thing is, like, it seems to me that you set a pretty high bar for yourself. Very, very high. You're capable, you can do it, you run for it. Sometimes, super women, like this type, can easily crash and burn. So what is the instrument that you have in place to really make sure that, you're not going back to deal with, that disappointment and shame you talked about, when you're not meeting that expectations?
So, that's a very good question. And basically, in my opportunities to meet with the board before, you've seen that, yes, I'm a very driven person. I actually think that that's one of the things that has pre-recovery worked against me. So it's something that I'm very attentive to. I talk about not wanting to overschedule myself, not wanting to take on too much. That's why I seek the counsel of others when I'm going to make decisions like, do I go into private practice? Do I continue working at the agency for a while? I take time to work through the decisions that I make. And yes, I would like to say that I can always maintain balance in my life. That's going to be my challenge in life. I know it's my challenge. It's almost like the more I try to put balance in my life, I realize that that's just such a part of who I am that I have to take steps to work at actually accepting that I am a very driven person and I'm going to need to do some extra things to calm myself down. So where life comes into play is I've had so many colleagues ask me in the last few months, well, gee, now that you're licensed and you're in private practice, what are going to be your specialties? What's your next step? What's your next thing? And as I feel that internal urge to go for it because I am that, I'm also very happy to sit back and say, you know what, it's okay. I have spent 7 years in this process, and it's okay to take my time and reflect on where I'm at. I don't have to make a decision about where my next professional pursuit is going to be. But I feel that internal urge. So I talk with other people about it. I talk with my family. I talk with my therapist, and I say, it's coming. It's wanting to push on me. Life has a way of also coming in. My mother had spinal surgery. She's looking at about a year-long recovery process to be hopefully fully functional again. There are things that happen in life that kind of do it for you if you allow them and you're open to that. And so I do a lot of things that kind of help me to maintain balance. I'm excited to be in private practice. It's wonderful. I'm finally able to manage my own schedule. But one of the greatest gifts that comes with that for right now is that I don't have to push as hard if I don't want to. I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where I don't have to. I'm not sole support of my family, and it's important that I work, but it's not a requirement to push, to an outlandish number of clients. And I get to take the time to enjoy my children's last 2 years of high school before they venture off to college. And it's those reminders from life that also help me stay balanced, to fight that kind of internal drive. That I know for me, it didn't work when I pushed so hard that I couldn't enjoy my life, when I couldn't appreciate the here and now. And I'm much more positioned to do that. It's not that, I'll be honest, it's not that I don't always feel that, because I I love that adrenaline rush. It's probably part of my addictive personality. But I have steps and things that I can do at this point to challenge that.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Brew? Ms. Pines?
Congratulations on getting where you are
Thank you.
and having to redo it 3 times. Must have been kind of a surprise to you that go through a residential treatment is and the people there are a hard part of getting sober. And I'm appreciative. Decided to do it 3 times. When there's a couple of things you said that are a little general, and I would like more specifics. You said your recovery and rehabilitation are a priority, and you have no evidence of relapse. Why didn't relapse? Why don't you just say no relapse, or I'm sober, instead of evidence? It's like it wasn't caught.
Oh, I think I have a background in professional liability, and so a lot of the way that I term things when I write them up for in preparation for the board is what I realize is that you're looking for evidence. I mean, I came to my intern number with 5 years sober, but what I realize is that you're looking for the evidence of that. And so the evidence of that is my 17 months of biofluid testing with no positives. So it's the lingo that I use for that. I'm not trying to hide anything or say, yes, I'm sober and I haven't relapsed. And so, but I understand it's just the way I write. It's, I realize that you're looking for proof. You're looking for proof, and I hope that that's what the time that I have spent, which is almost 3 years now on probation, is prove that I am capable of monitoring my own recovery efforts.
And I think you may have answered this already, but when you say in your summary, take actions necessary to ensure that I have the support I need to maintain my overall health. So what kind of support? Could you be more specific about what it is that you go to when you need support?
So today would be a perfect example. This process terrifies me. It's intimidating. The first time I came to appear for my request for modification of my penalty, I came in, I was very nervous, but I presented very well. I came in last August and I got really nervous and anxious and I talked so fast and, the only difference is I just got really, really nervous and kind of overwhelmed in the moment. Today, I bring people with me. That's not doing it alone. That's having support. They're here for me. That's what it's ultimately about. I mean, that's what I told my sponsor. I said, forget them. You're here for me. I need you. And, being concerned about what you would say, it's an intimidating process. So that would just be an example of not doing it alone and taking steps to make sure that that I present the best me that is possible. I do this through the course of any day. I just don't do life alone anymore. And I learned in my family growing up to be very independent, oldest adult child in an alcoholic family. I just trudged through and I was very proud of my independence, but it got in the way of me being healthy and being open to help other people. And, it almost cost me my life. And so today, I will take whatever steps are necessary and those steps are it's a variety of things, but 99 times out of 100, it is not doing it alone. It involves somebody else that I'm connecting with that is going to walk through it with me.
Thank you. It sounds like you gained a lot of insight into yourself.
So I'll check with the panel just if that conjured up any questions. Just a quick look. It doesn't appear we have any more questions from the board. Ms. Seamantle, do you have any further questions?
No.
Okay. Ms. Templin, is there anything further that you would like to introduce to the board?
No, I just thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay. And I do think I neglected at the beginning when you turned in Exhibit 1. I will admit it now if there is no objection. Is there any objection to my admitting the petition packet, Ms. Templin?
No objections.
Okay, so Exhibit 1 will be admitted. And that concludes the hearing in this matter. The record is closed and the case is submitted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you. And we're off the record. Madam Court Reporter, are we ready? Okay, well, let's go ahead and go back on the record. Good morning, everyone. We are on the record, and we are before the Board of Behavioral Sciences to review the petition for early termination of probation by Teresa Fernandez. This is OAH case number 2017-01-1096, and the board's case number is LC-2011-635. My name is Tiffany King. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter. Earlier this morning, the board members did identify themselves for the record, and we established that we have a quorum. May I please take the appearance of counsel for the record, starting with the Deputy Attorney General.
Melissa Seamantle, Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you.
Morning, Richard Kaplan, present on behalf of Ms. Fernandez.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name.
Kaplan, Kaplan.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I have been asked if you can be sure you're speaking into the microphone so that we can hear. Sometimes when you turn your head away, it does fade. So we will let you know if we can't hear you.
I'll make sure to speak up. Usually people hear me.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, then Ms. Seamantle, I will turn it over to you.
My name is Melissa Seamantle, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I am here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. If I may approach with the exhibit packet.
Yes, please. And I'll mark the exhibit packet, excuse me, the petition packet as states Exhibit 1.
And a copy has been provided to petitioner. Included in the exhibit packet is the petition for early termination of probation dated November 5th, 2016, along with attachments to the petition, a performance evaluation from the County of Los Angeles, 5 letters of support from friends and family, 11 letters of support from professionals, the decision and order with the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order in case number LC-2011-635 that became effective on March 13th, 2013. The decision in the matter of the petition for modification of probation of Teresa Lynn Fernandez, OAH case number 2014-100492. That decision became effective on January 20th, 2015. The decision in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Teresa Lynn Fernandez, OAH case number 2015-061155. The decision became effective on October 12th, 2015. The notice of hearing and license history certification.
Is there any objection to my admitting Exhibit 1 at this time?
No, there's not.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
In regards to petitioner's background, on November 23rd, 2009, the board issued petitioner licensed clinical social worker number LCSW 25391. The license is valid until April 30th, 2018. On April 25th, 2012, an accusation was filed under board case number LC-2011-635. On February 13th, 2013, a stipulated settlement and disciplinary order was adopted by the board, which became effective on March 13th, 2013. The decision revoked petitioner's license. However, the revocation was stayed and petitioner was placed on probation for 5 years. The accusation in that matter was filed based upon petitioner's 2 convictions, dangerous conduct, and also convictions of alcohol-related crimes. The circumstances are that petitioner was convicted of driving under the influence on December 2nd of 2010, after petitioner was involved in a traffic collision where she was the driver, and petitioner had a blood alcohol content of 0.14, 0.12% by breath. On May 5th of 2005, petitioner was convicted of reckless driving on a highway after petitioner was stopped by law enforcement after committing a traffic violation. Upon contact, petitioner displayed objective signs of intoxication and admitted to officers that she had a drink about an hour prior. Petitioner declined to participate in field sobriety tests. Pursuant to a stipulated settlement, petitioner's license was revoked with the revocation stayed and 5 years of probation. While on probation, respondent was to participate in ongoing psychotherapy at least once a week, complete a rehabilitation program, submit to biological fluid testing, pay cost recovery, and reimburse the board for its probation monitoring costs. On November 19th of 2014, petitioner went before the board to eliminate certain probation terms. Effective January 20th of 2015, the weekly psychotherapy was eliminated and the biological fluid testing was reduced to 1 time per month. Petitioner again went before the board on August 27th of 2015 for termination of probation. On October 12th of 2015, petitioner's request for early termination of probation was denied. Petitioner has met all of her probation requirements with 1 positive biological fluid test for a prescribed medication in 2013, and petitioner has paid $4,800 for probation monitoring. Petitioner is again requesting that the board terminate her probation. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question petitioner.
Thank you. Mr. Kaplan, would you like to give an opening statement?
No, at this time, I'm not going to give an opening, but I would like to submit an additional exhibit, some additional updated AA meetings.
Okay, thank you.
8 copies, is that what we need for today?
I think that should be sufficient. Ms. Mantle, you said you already have a copy?
I do.
I will mark this. It's just the 1 page, correct, sir?
That's correct.
Okay, so I will mark this as Exhibit A. So if you're not going to give an opening statement, I can go ahead and swear in your client now.
Yes.
Good morning, Ms. Fernando. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Thank you. Can everybody hear her? Okay, thank you. Your witness, counselor.
Fernando has a statement. Feel free.
Okay.
The first thing I would like to say is thank you. Thank you for seeing me again and giving me another opportunity. You didn't have to, but you did. When I'd gotten the denial letter last year, I was disappointed, but not devastated. I knew this was a sign that my life could be better and my support system stronger. I read the letter carefully and interpreted this as advice. I started attending AA once a week and got a sponsor. I touched base with her daily. My whole life and growing up in my family, I was taught to be resilient and not lean on therapy, religion, or support groups for strength. I think I felt I never belonged and also convinced myself I didn't need help. Although I had attended AA, I was resistant to the process. I'm now comfortable saying I was a binge drinker and a high-functioning alcoholic. I know that the disease manifests in various ways. I truly believe I'm safe to practice and will never put the public in danger again. I recognize my prior convictions and am aware and sorry I caused danger to others and to myself. I've been sober for 6 years and have successfully completed all my terms of probation. I go to therapy once a week. I've completed rehab. I have documented AA attendance and am acutely aware of my triggers, anxiety, and I also have a 24/7 lifeline when I need support. My recovery is a lifetime commitment, and I'm very proud of where I am now versus where I was. And once again, I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kaplan, did you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. And this Exhibit A, this is the proof of your AA attendance, is that correct? Ms. Seamantle, do you have any objection to Exhibit A being admitted?
No.
Okay, Exhibit A is admitted. Seamantle, do you have any questions for Ms. Fernander?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Are you still attending therapy?
Yes.
How often do you attend therapy?
I try to go once a week, and I go to addiction medicine, and I've still been seeing the same therapist. I've known her since about 2010, Nancy.
You intend to attend therapy even if the board grants the early termination of probation?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is the rest of my life, absolutely.
You have a sobriety date?
Yes, it's the date of my accident, October 15th, 2010.
Based upon the exhibit, you attend AA meetings, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
How often do you attend AA meetings?
I try to go at least once a week. Every once in a while, it's twice a week, but I try to go as often as I can.
Stated at your last petition hearing that you did not attend AA because you felt it is not helpful, and today you stated that at first you were resistant to AA. Why did you start attending AA?
You know, I had attended AA when in 2010 when I was required to go, and maybe I was just, and I think again I had said this previously, I was resistant to the process because I felt that I grew up my family was gay, and I think I was never taught to rely on support systems. I was never taught to rely on the church. I was never taught to rely on therapy. And I think although I felt I wanted to, I think I was still so resistant, and I wish I would have done it sooner, to be honest with you, especially going to AA. So, and that's why I said that when I had that opportunity, and although I was denied, I had that opportunity to look at myself again closely and actually really get involved in AA. And I think for me too, having that sponsor was a life changer, and being able to relate to her and going through the 12 steps with her, going to meetings with her, going to sober parties with her has been great. She's in people who are in sobriety. In fact, I still keep in touch with 2 women that are in recovery that have gone through the board. They've been fantastic. They actually texted me this morning wishing me luck. But I feel good. I feel good where I am now versus where I was. And you can be sober, as I've been for so long, but I haven't been in recovery. And recovery is a lifetime commitment. And that's what I feel that I don't know if I failed to realize it, or maybe I was in denial, but I'm a high functioning alcoholic. I was a binge drinker.
Have you worked through the 12 steps?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
Let's see. I once completely, and then I think I'm now back on the 8th step. The higher power that I continue to struggle with, but
Will you continue to attend AA meetings even if the board grants early termination of your probation?
Oh, absolutely. I've had my sponsor, I think, for over a year now, and she's been fantastic. And she's also, which is nice, she's also in the field. She's a psychologist. She's been sober for over 20 years. The last meeting in LA, she was actually going to come and be here. Unfortunately, I couldn't fly her to Sacramento. But yeah, she's been great. I will keep her. She'll keep me.
You stated in response to question 12 of your petition for early termination that you, quote, have insight into the seriousness of the crime I committed and the unhealthy coping skills that led me to that dark part in my life. What specific insight do you have, and what healthy coping skills have you developed? I'll separate those questions. I'll ask one at a time. But you stated in the response to question 12 of your petition that you have insight into the seriousness of the crime that I committed and the unhealthy coping skills that led me to that dark part in my life. What insight into the seriousness of the crime do you have now?
The insight that I have now, and I felt that I had it before, but maybe I can convey it better today, is that I put the public at risk. I put my license at risk. I put myself at risk. And I love what I do. I love my career. And I did. I put the public in danger. I also know too is that I think I have a problem with anxiety, and that's something that I recognize. And so when I get anxious and when I get upset, I can either go to a meeting. I mean, the good part about LA is there's meetings everywhere, and I can text my sponsor and she answers immediately. So that's I'm acutely aware of what I've done, and I take responsibility. And the deeper insight is knowing too that being sober is not drinking. Recovery is a lifelong process, and I think that's what I wasn't doing before. I was pretty happy that I was sober, but I was somewhat resistant to recovery. To be honest with you, that's more of a loss. That's a loss for me. I could have done this. I have a better life now. I have more support. It's a lot better. It's a lot.
I'll kind of break down the second part. You had stated that you had unhealthy coping skills. The first, what unhealthy coping skills did you have?
I think sometimes I don't think that I took care of myself the way that I should have. I think that I isolated. And again, as far as my support, although that I said I had it, I think I did isolate. I didn't go to AA meetings. Unhealthy coping skills. We do have anxiety, but also too is I recognized it, but I didn't do anything about it. Although I went to therapy, I guess I feel like I know my triggers.
And Ms. Fernando, if I could, when you're turning away, it's a little hard to pick you up.
I'm getting a little nervous, so I feel like I'm rambling.
That's understandable. You can take a breath, and you don't have to rush through it all. Just take your time.
Yeah. And I have two now. God. All right. And my unhealthy coping skill was in 2010, I just don't want to make it look like I'm making excuses. I had a very stressful job. I was working for the crisis response team. I didn't have a ton of support. I was really struggling with my relationship with my boyfriend at the time. Um, I had some huge stressors, and I don't feel that I have them the way that I had them beforehand. And I think the way that I coped was I drank, and that's something that I no longer do anymore. And my intention, I think I tried to minimize it, and I know now that I can't drink and that I'm an alcoholic, and I'm a high functioning alcoholic, and I think that's where I was in denial about it. I thought there was a certain way that someone looked, or there was a label, and I kept thinking it wasn't me because I was working and I had a job, and I wasn't coping well.
What coping skills have you developed?
So I go to AA once a week. I try to see my therapist. It's Kaiser, so sometimes it's hard to get in. But I try to go to therapy once a week. If not, I check in with her. I check in with my sponsor daily. I do daily gratitude with her. I also do daily gratitude with one of my friends. I'm more spiritual. I recite the Serenity Prayer, I think, every day, a couple times this morning, and believing in a higher power and in something greater than me.
You had submitted a support letter from Ike Mendoza. It was hard to tell from the letter. Is he aware of your convictions involving alcohol?
Yes, he is. Been one of my best friends for a long time, and he's been very supportive, but no, he didn't.
One last question. Have you been convicted of any offenses since you filed your petition for early termination?
No.
No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Kaplan, is there anything that you would like to add?
If I make a statement now, or would you like, if there are questions, shall I make it at the end? What is your preference or typical?
Do you have? Why don't we go ahead and have your evidence, and then we'll open it up to the board.
Okay, thank you. October 18th, 2010 is when I met Ms. Fernandez 3 days after her DUI. I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and she came to me, so I'm kind of here for support because I've known her since then, and we've kind of maintained a relationship. And I can say she's one of those clients that has made my job very easy. Took responsibility early on. She was devastated by what occurred, but really approached it as, I made a mistake. It's on me. What can I do to fix it? By December, she had entered her plea in the case. Probation, program, fines, all the usual things, community service, I think some jail, and she did everything. But when I say she did everything, she paid everything on time. She's one of the people that finished the 18-month program in about 18 and a half months, the fastest that I've ever seen. Beyond that, and I think the packet kind of speaks for itself, at that time she put herself into Kaiser. In addition to what the court ordered, she went into therapy. She did all these things independent of the court, knowing that she needed to fix herself and make things better. It wasn't until 2013, almost 3 years later, or 2.5 years later, that the board got involved. The board then set new obligations on Ms. Fernandez, more programs, testing. She's done all of that, never failed on anything. You heard about the one test that I think was a prescription medication. Short of that, I think she's done over 120 tests that have been clean. Based upon last year's denial, she took that and said, what can I do different? How can I improve myself? And I think she's really just been the poster child of what somebody needs to do to recover. There's nothing to indicate that she could not practice well, that she would be bad for the profession. I believe she understands the severity of what occurred. It's a conviction. It's serious. This second one today we've heard about. I think the board is well aware that drinking and driving, the dangers, and I think Ms. Fernandez is well aware of that. It's been more than 6 years. since that incident. She's complied. All of her convictions have since been expunged. On the, probation was terminated early on one of them because she did so well and it was expunged. And her rehab is ongoing, as she states. I believe she's talked about her coping skills, her triggers. And just an example was last November, we were supposed to have a hearing. We applied for early termination. And again, I think I heard it with the first person too. We applied a little bit early and it was less than a year. And Teresa found out 2 days before we were scheduled to come to the hearing in Riverside. And that was an extremely emotional and stressful event for her at the time, thinking she was going to come in and make this pitch back then. And she handled it great. I mean, she was upset, but, I talked with her. She talked to Julie McCullough, who's here, who's her officer, who was very helpful. I know she was in touch with her sponsor, and I know, I think early last year she was engaged, so she has the support of her fiance. And so she does have that support, and I think she's really dealing with those stressors well. I will say that Teresa's kind of come full circle in that, as you're aware, she works in the LA County Jail. So every day, that's what she's doing. She's going to jail. She's working with the inmates. And she's working with the inmates. So she sees what's going on. And she also shares her experiences with them, with the other employees. And that's something that I think is in some of the letters. This is not something she hides. She's upfront with it, and she tries to educate people through her experience. One of the letters that was submitted was from Louis Gray, who's a LAPD police officer, and I'll just read you one paragraph that he stated. As a friend, I have not only observed Teresa do as expected of her as required in the conditions of her probation, but I have seen Teresa educate and assist others regarding the dangers of drinking and driving. I've witnessed Teresa confidently recount her experience to friends and strangers in social settings. Such an encounter would be embarrassing to most, but Teresa confidently expresses her experience and hopes to prevent an individual from driving while intoxicated, as well as putting innocent drivers at risk. And I think it's really important when you talk about insight that she wears it openly and she doesn't hide it. And lastly, I know Teresa one of the reasons she wants the termination of this is she wants to move on professionally. One can't become a supervisor. One can't oversee interns when you're on probation. Many of the letters from her work indicate that those are things they would like Teresa to do. She's that person, but she can't do it as long as she's on probation. But there's really an amazing letter in the packet that was from Michael Levin, an attorney, but I'm going to read you just a brief portion of it. Too often in our penal institutions, we hear about abuse of power, cruelty, anger, violence, and institutionalized apathy. In mid-July, my son Joshua was brought to your facility in bad shape, mentally and physically, and this is a letter to the jail. And it talks about Miss Fernander and another deputy. But it says as to Miss Fernander, Miss Fernander managed to break through to a young man that was traumatized, unstable, distrustful, frightened, and alone. Her expertise allowed a gradual opening up, communication, thought, and hope. She alone moved, quote unquote, mental mountains to save a soul. Teresa's kindness, excellence, and perseverance proved to win the day, bringing back my son to a state of stability with a smile on his face and hope instead of hate in his heart. If there is ever a doubt as to the necessity of such psychological work and interventions, please erase it. Bringing one back to stability, trust, and socialization prevents angry outbursts of violence among inmates and staff. So not only is Teresa fit, she's above and beyond what she does. And termination would allow her the opportunity to move on and to help others. And I would submit it. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now open it up to the board for questions. Dr. Hsu.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, and thank you for coming. I know it's not that easy for you. I just have one question. You mentioned about your support system. Can you give us more detail, how you think your support system would help you maintain your sobriety?
What? Okay, thank you. Okay. My support system, and I think I had said previously, I have a lot of family, unique family, but family. I have a lot of really good friends. I have good coworkers. I also have, again, and I can't stress that enough, is I think your friends can be there for you, when they're not busy and not doing things. But my sponsor's been my 24/7, and she has been that lifeline. And so, along with my friends and my family, I also have her, my therapist. She actually called me last night. I was surprised just to, wish me luck, which I thought was incredibly sweet. I feel that people are supporting me and cheering me on. It makes me feel really good. And I'm going to throw in my fiance. Yes, he's been wonderful too, but he's not here. And yeah, I feel like I have a lot of support in so many areas of my life.
If you don't mind, I want to ask a follow-up question. Well, what I'm thinking is like, do you still have an urge to drink, or at the moment, you're more stressful and you're thinking about drinking, and like I know you will talk to your sponsor, but what other, you talk about the different triggers and how you cope with it, because you mentioned a little bit before. I just want to hear more specifics. Yeah.
Okay. So I do know that one of my triggers is anxiety, and so that I know that. I know that who I can go to, and I can, again, my sponsor's on speed dial. I go to AA meetings because I know that I can. They're everywhere in LA. I'm really lucky about that. I can talk to friends or family. I also can. I work out. I just got a personal trainer. And I don't feel the urge to drink. I feel that if I've had opportunities to relapse, I haven't. And I know now I'm clear of my triggers. And I think before I may not have been. And so I know what to do, and I know how to reach out, and I know how to help myself, even if it's meditating or or journaling. I've been a big fan of journaling. I get racing thoughts. I catastrophize, and I start going over stuff. So I write stuff down. I journal, and that's been incredibly helpful. So I have, you know, personal support. I have exercise. Nothing's perfect, but I have a lot of various things that I can do to help me. Like again, like I said this morning, a bunch of people called me. I meditated. I did the serenity prayer. And I think for the first time since I've been here, I actually feel calm. And and it feels good because I also know too that, believing in a higher power, that there's only so much that I can control. And I feel good, and I know I'm doing the best I can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Miss Ashley.
My question was very similar to Peter's, so I think it's been answered. It was just regarding what tools do you utilize to ensure that you have the necessary support. I think I'm fine.
You want me to? I can.
Sure, if you want to expound, please.
I can. So again, my tools is again, I keep going back to my sponsor because I think she's been the most available at all times. My fiance is available, but he's not like my sponsor, because my sponsor's been through. She's in recovery. She understands. She listens. My therapist, my friends. I'm very lucky because I have had a lot of support, but I've only gained additional support since, maybe a year and a half ago, which I'm really thankful. I'm really happy. I may not have done that.
Dr. Wittesbach?
Thank you. So I can cross one of my questions off, so that's good. I heard you say earlier, almost at the beginning of your statement, that you had read our letter from 2015 carefully and considered it advice, and you actually spoke to the concerns from that letter. I heard very clearly, point by point, you addressed all of those. So well done on your preparation. I guess I also heard you say a couple times that you considered yourself a binge drinker, a high functioning alcoholic. You said that 2 or 3 times. So I'm just wondering, what does an alcoholic look like?
That's a great question. I think I possibly profiled people, even myself, that I couldn't be an alcoholic because I worked full time. I had friends. I had the support. I didn't start drinking till I was later. And I couldn't grasp the fact that how in the world could I have committed not one crime but 2 crimes. And I think the fact too is that I did, and I profiled like, gosh, that couldn't be me. And I realized that, and when I say high functioning, I think that's where it gets cloudy, is I thought of someone that couldn't keep a job, that was always calling in sick, that was drinking all the time. And I wasn't. No, I was, or I still am successful. I still am. However, I know too that, again, and I had said that alcohol does manifest in various ways, and I cannot drink. It's really not an option. You know, it's something that, it's not that I'm choosing to not do. I can't. It's something that I clearly can't, and that's why I identify as a high functioning alcoholic. And I think that's where it got a little confusing for me, because I did have that profile of that somehow someone who couldn't keep a job, they, maybe they didn't have any support. And my sponsor was the one that we spoke about that, because she identified with that. She said, I think, Teresa, this could possibly be the problem. And it was a revelation. So yes, I'm absolutely an alcoholic. And so going to those meetings too, I meet various people, and I go to different meetings, and I see people that are similar to my situation.
Just one follow-up question.
Yeah.
And this will be the last one. I don't
No,
mean
that's
to keep
okay.
going on, but why can't you drink? Why?
Because I have a disease, and I have an addiction, and that's why. And yeah, I can't.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Brown?
I was just wondering, if the probation is removed, will you still continue going to psychotherapy?
Absolutely. I love it. I do. I love my therapist. She's been, I don't know if love's probably a strong word, but I've been with her since 2010. And then I stopped seeing her because the board had said that I needed to see someone else. So I saw someone else. And then I went back to her because she's been so fantastic. She's also in addiction medicine too. So she's been phenomenal. So absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Wong?
Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
So you're not required to go to AA.
Pardon
And
me?
you're not required to go to
No.
AA at all.
Nope.
So I remember last year you were pretty resistant of, AA is not my
I
thing.
was.
Right.
I
So
was.
what transpired to start attending AA?
It wasn't just the letter that I had gotten. I was still unhappy. and I still didn't feel good about myself. And if there was something that I could do that might make my life better, I wanted to give it another opportunity. And this is what I did. And this was the opportunity that I gave myself. And so that's what that was about. Because I truly don't feel that, again, although I was sober, I don't know, I wasn't working a program. And that's the difference about my life today. And the difference is too is again, it's a lifelong process, and it's full circle. And and gosh, I wish that I wasn't so resistant, but guess what? I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm doing it now. And that's not going to stop either. I've met some wonderful people. I've gone to some fantastic sober parties that I didn't even know existed. And it's a nice community, and I'm happy. I enjoy it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
I have another question.
Sure.
So in your testimony, the written part of it, you talk about, the shame and the remorse. So I want you to speak a little bit more about that. What is the difference between now and a year ago? What kind of work that you have done, to
That's a great question.
Deal
Because
with
that
it.
was asked of me, and I know that too, that shame, again, felt like a really bad person. And I still feel guilty, and I still feel badly. But I don't feel like I'm this horrible person anymore. And I think that that's what I struggled with a lot, and very low self-esteem, and people, this perception, and I think too with my family growing up, and we did a lot of masking of things and hiding things, and I grew up that way of not talking about my family, not being involved in church. You don't need extra support group. And I also think too, because of the uniqueness of my family, it was that fear of, oh, you don't need it, or oh, you may get hurt, or oh, it's a problem. We didn't go to church. So when this happened too, I did have a lot of shame, but I don't want to take away that I still don't have remorse and I don't feel badly. But I feel good about myself now for acknowledging my resistance as well, and having that opportunity to get more support. And I really do want to say thank you, because I may not have done it, if you guys hadn't said, hey, we're concerned. And it sounds crazy, but it's true. And sometimes things happen for a reason. And I'm thankful for where I am today, and I feel more confident than I've ever felt being here. I think it's my third time here. You guys are probably sick of seeing me. But
Thank
hopefully
you
that
very
answers
much. Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I want to acknowledge the growth that you've demonstrated. I still have this slightly uneasy feeling, I'll be honest with you, and let me try to articulate it. So, like at the top level, I see you acknowledge the danger of the behavior. And then there's sort of this mid-level of understanding your family of origins, habit of not seeking help, and how you have overcome that barrier. And then an understanding of your anxiety, and then you've listed the people and exercise, journaling, meditation as resources. But there's something deeper that feels like it's missing for me, and I'm trying to articulate how to get there with you. What worries me is that you, early in your testimony, you had said there were a lot of like bad things going on, bad relationship, bad day at work, stressful work. And I'm thinking there are a lot worse things that can happen to you than those. And so what if those happen now? And I think the answer you would give me is, well, you would go to your support system for help. I feel like there's something deeper that still needs to shift. I guess maybe speak more about your self-esteem issues. So it seems like you had self-esteem issues you became aware of as a result of the DUI, but was there something before the DUI? Like that, it's like the problem started with the DUI. The coping mechanism was your family of origin, but was there something before that that led to that? I'm not being clear.
And I'm going to try to understand what you're, because I want to make myself clear, but
Yeah.
I do get a little confused about the question. So can I just speak freely? Would that help?
Yeah, let's try it out. I want to hear something different than what you've said.
My mom died pretty suddenly when I was 25. And I think that had a huge effect on me. And I don't want to continue to be repetitious. That's not my intent. But as far as, also self-esteem is a gradual process. And this is something, again, too, is that, I don't want to come across as my life's the most amazing life ever. Life's a journey. And I'm going through it, and I'm going through it a day at a time. And I don't know how to answer this question. I'm so.
So it seems like I remember you speaking to your mom in the materials. Do you have great self-esteem before your mom died? Was life good?
No,
No.
that's a good question, and
Not that you have to get into the depths of that, but I wonder, like, have you worked on that stuff of
okay.
your family of origin, not just your family of origin's coping mechanism?
I think I know how to answer
but
that.
like attachment stuff is what.
Yes, I think I know how to. I'm going to give you the best answer that I can give for me. That's all I can give.
Of course.
Is that because I think that I had two moms, and it was back in the 70s. I did my thesis on it in graduate school. I felt like I didn't belong, and I think that I felt embarrassed. We didn't have support groups. There was nothing on children of gay and lesbians, and so I always kind of felt like that odd person out. Didn't go to church because I felt that that somehow something bad would happen or we would be shamed. I'd hear people, I still hear people say things, people gay bash in front of me. I teach people what I can teach people, the ones that I feel that deserve to listen or that I respect or that can hear me. But I have been, how do you say, I've been a minority. It's still new. So I think that has affected my self-esteem. So, and I think you had said something a while ago, the last meeting, about the shame. And I think all that triggered my shame because growing up, I hid a lot of stuff. And growing up is my aunt and my uncle were the ones that would rotate and do the father-daughter conference. I didn't have people spend the night at my house. There were also safety concerns as well. When I was a kid, I was told that I could possibly be removed if my family were gay. So if you're wondering where that's coming from, I think that could be it, because I know that's that deep piece. But
Is that what you're working on? That's
Yes.
what I want you to be
That
working
is-
on.
Yes.
That's the antecedent to the DUIs, to the drinking.
And I think that's that piece, and that actually now, yes, because, and I think you had said too, is there was that piece where I was very worried about the way that I would come across and how I would look. And that triggered the stuff when I was a kid. Because being a kid, I was so afraid of people knowing about my family. And I hid so much of it, and I lied so much about where I came. It was just this ongoing battle. And so when I felt like, oh my God, now people are going to know too. So now it's like it triggered, it opened up this can of worms. So not only when I go to therapy, I do, that's also something that I do talk about. So you're right. And I do think that that's what you're getting.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Ms. Pine? Anything further from the board? Council, do you have anything further?
I have one question. You spoke a lot about support systems that you have in kind of your personal life. What support do you have in your professional life?
Oh gosh, that's easy. My coworkers are fantastic. I transferred jobs. Ironically, I do work at a jail, and it's funny that it's even safer than what I was doing beforehand. My program head is so supportive. My boss is aware of this. He's so incredibly supportive. My coworkers, I've got one coworker who is actually in recovery. And so sometimes when we're in the jail, we get, they call it lockdowns. So that's the kind of the panic sometimes even about testing or whatnot. Like, am I going to get there? What are we going to do? I'm literally stuck in a building. I can't leave my office. I have a ton of support. So my coworker, Felicia Hall, she had written a letter, and so she's also in recovery, and we do the 12 steps. So as far as coworkers, they've just been amazing. I had even, and I think I had said this before, but I had gone with HR. I had taken my name out, but we wrote a letter about drinking and driving. And she's the head of HR for LA County, and we did an article about it, about the dangers and what can happen and what can really happen, when not just putting the community at risk and hurting yourself, but what can happen to your license. I love my job. I love my career. And I don't want to lose this. I want to be a social worker the rest of my life. I'm very passionate about helping people.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Kaplan, do you have any other witnesses that you would like to call?
No, we don't.
Any last statement you'd like to make? Okay.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank
Okay.
you.
If there's
Nothing
nothing
further. I think she did a great job.
Okay. If there's nothing further, then that concludes this hearing in this matter. The record is closed and the matter is submitted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So the next matter we're going to call is Firuzan Jami. Did I get it right this time? Okay. Give me 1 minute to find it. Okay. Good morning. We are on the record and we are before the Board of Behavioral Sciences to review the petition for early termination of probation by Firuzan Jami. This is OAH case number 2017-02-0082, and the board's case number is IM-2012-1141. My name is Tiffany King, and I'm the Administrative Law Judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings who has been assigned to preside over this matter. The board members have previously identified themselves, and we have established a quorum. Counsel, may I please take your appearance for the record?
Melissa C. Mantle, Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Jami, before we went on the record, I had met with you and the other petitioners to give you a brief overview of what to expect for today. Do you have any questions before I turn it over to Ms. C. Mantle to give an overview of your case?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
My name is Melissa C. Mantle, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I am here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I am here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. If I may approach with the exhibit packet.
Yes, please. I'll mark the packet as States Exhibit 1.
And a copy has been provided to petitioner. Included in the exhibit packet is the petition for early termination of probation dated December 1st, 2016, 2 letters of support, court document in the case of People versus Firuzan Jami, Superior Court of California, County of San Diego, case number SDC 238689, for defendant's motion for early termination of probation dated January 7th, 2015. Decision and order with the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order in case number IM-2012-1141 that became effective on November 25th, 2013. The decision in the matter of the petition for modification of probation of Firuzan Jami, OAH, case number 2015-06-1152. The decision became effective on October 12th, 2015. 9 psychotherapy reports, the notice of hearing, and license history certification. Regarding petitioner's background, the board issued petitioner a marriage and family therapist intern registration number the number was IMF69435 on January 17th, 2012. The license is valid until January 31st, 2018. On April 11th, 2013, an accusation was filed under board case number IM-2012-1141. On October 25th, 2013, a stipulated settlement and disciplinary order was adopted by the board, which became effective on November 25th, 2013. The decision revoked petitioner's marriage and family therapist intern registration, but stayed the revocation and placed the petitioner on probation for 5 years. The accusation filed was based upon petitioner's 2 convictions for insurance fraud and commission of a dishonest, corrupt, or fraudulent act. It was 1 conviction of insurance fraud and a commission of a dishonest, corrupt, or fraudulent act. On March 27th of 2012, petitioner pled guilty to a felony violation of Penal Code Section 550, Subdivision B2, for preparing a false insurance claim. The court reduced the charge to a misdemeanor pursuant to Penal Code Section 17, Subdivision B5. The circumstances of the conviction were that on June 11, 2010, petitioner purchased a motorcycle that she did not insure. On June 22, 2010, petitioner's boyfriend informed petitioner that around 9 a.m., the petitioner's boyfriend informed her that the motorcycle had been stolen. An hour later, around 10 a.m., petitioner obtained a motorcycle insurance policy. Later that same day, petitioner reported the theft of the motorcycle to law enforcement and told law enforcement that she discovered the motorcycle missing around 5:30 p.m. Approximately 12 days later, petitioner filed an insurance claim for the theft of the motorcycle, and petitioner gave the insurance company the same information that she told law enforcement. Petitioner repeatedly provided this story to investigators and also signed an affidavit of theft. It was not until almost 3 months after the theft that petitioner admitted that she lied to investigators. Pursuant to a stipulated settlement, the intern registration was issued, placed on stayed revocation with 5 years of probation. While on probation, respondent was to participate in ongoing psychotherapy at least once a week, reimburse the board for its probation monitoring costs, complete 2 semester units in law and ethics, and pay cost recovery in the amount of $2,525. From March 30th of 2015 to August 18th of 2015, petitioner's probation was told because she ceased to practice as a marriage and family therapist intern. Therefore, her revised probation completion date is April 15th, 2019. On August 27th of 2015, petitioner went before the board to request a modification of probation terms. Effective October 12th of 2015, the biweekly psychotherapy was reduced the weekly psychotherapy was reduced to bi-monthly, as stated in the matter of the petition for modification of probation. Petitioner has met all of her probation requirements except for payment of cost recovery, which petitioner has paid $1,900 to date. Regarding probation monitoring costs, petitioner has paid $2,400. Petitioner is requesting that the board terminate her probation. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question petitioner.
Okay, thank you. Just a housekeeping item, Ms. Jami, do you have any objection to my admitting Exhibit 1 at this time? That's the petition packet that she was referring to.
Why it's being omitted?
No, do you have an objection to it being admitted? Okay, Exhibit 1 is admitted. And Ms. Jami, before you begin, I will ask you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready to begin. You might need to shift your chair just a little bit. Thank you.
Is this better?
That is
Okay.
better. Thank you.
This is my second time here. I should feel like I'm more comfortable around you guys, but it's still kind of anxiety provoking, so I apologize for that. I come from a cultural background where my family did everything for me. My parents did everything for me. My brothers and sisters, my older siblings, they took care of my bills. They took care of life essentially for me. I never got to individuate from my family and create an identity for myself. As I pursued my master's program, I did, let's say, try to live life on my own by engaging in a relationship where my family wasn't aware of, having this incident occur as well, where I wasn't aware of the extreme consequences to my behaviors. And I didn't understand a whole lot about life until later on in my life. Around the age of 25, I would say I experienced what a typical American person at the age of 18 would experience life as. Throughout this process, I did not get any financial compensation from this, from the insurance or anything like that. I did let the detectives know that it was my fault that I did place the insurance claim after knowing that the bike was stolen. This was an irresponsible act on my side and on my part that I understand and I have accepted the consequences that were brought forth to me from the court and from the BBS as well. And through it all, I have been able to not only just comply with what the court required of me, as in like you have to pay certain fees and costs and complete certain amount of volunteer work, where I completed all of that. And then I was still stuck with a lot of these emotions as far as how to be able to balance between
myself and my family's life and differentiate between those two. The board came about and sent me a letter stating that there's, due to this conviction, that I am required to complete certain requirements. And one of the requirements on there was psychotherapy. This was initially very difficult for me as I felt like I didn't need psychotherapy, like this isn't for me, although I provided it as well. This was just a strange request from the board. So I complied and I went into therapy, and within therapy, I learned that there's so much support available to me that I didn't understand before. I didn't identify before. I couldn't identify on my own. And throughout therapy, I've grown to implement my decisions in my household, in my family's household, I guess, and also combine their requests in a way that I'm still able to take charge of my life and my decisions in my life. And without therapy being required to me, I will be honest and say that I would have never stepped foot into a therapist's office. With that being said, I have completed the requirements there as far as court's obligations go. I've had my record expunged from the board side. I've completed my requirements there as well and was granted modification of my probation from weekly psychotherapy to twice a month, bi-monthly, I believe that's what it's called. In that time when I had my probation told, because I was not working at that point, I was studying for my first exam. At that point, I was still seeking out psychotherapy as well, and I was doing that on a weekly basis. And being able to apply what I was learning in therapy to my actual life and being able to rehearse it on a daily basis. Even with the modification granted, I'm still working towards maintaining what I've gained from therapy, and with that, I am requesting an early termination of my probation. I have completed, I believe, 3 out of the 5 years. I'm including the tolling period as well.
Just to clarify, you're saying that the 3 years includes the period that you were told. So you've added it all together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It should be like 3.5, maybe. It started November 25th, 2013.
Thank you. Ms. Seamantle, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Submitted a letter of support from Maria Morgan. As Ms. Morgan states that she is aware that you are on probation with the board, but is she aware of why you were placed on probation with the board?
Yes, she is aware of that. And she's my regional, well, she was my regional director, and prior to her being a regional director, she was my program director as well. Currently, the position is vacant.
Based upon the quarterly reports from your psychotherapist, it states that during the first quarter of your probation in 2014, you discussed the circumstances of your conviction with your psychotherapist. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you discussed the circumstances of your conviction with your psychotherapist since then?
It's generally the basis of our sessions, how certain situations in my life manifest, and we are able to relate it back to my self-destructive coping skills, I would say, a feeling that I didn't have any support, that I didn't know what to do. And so we often do navigate back to it.
You said in your statement that regarding the circumstances of the conviction, that was an irresponsible act on your part. How would you differentiate between an irresponsible act from an act that is untruthful?
Can you repeat that again?
How would you differentiate between an irresponsible act how would you differentiate an irresponsible act from an act of being untruthful?
I would say that they would go hand in hand. As far as being untruthful is being irresponsible. You're neglecting to have all the pieces of the situation present. So I would identify those two going hand in hand, untruthful and irresponsible.
On page 2 of your application, you state that being naive as to how insurance worked, I didn't understand the consequences of my action and was charged with a misdemeanor. You stated that you were being naive. Could you please explain how you knew to sign up for insurance around 10 o'clock on one day, which was an hour after your boyfriend told you the motorcycle had been stolen, and then wait until later that day to say to law enforcement that you found out that the motorcycle was stolen at 5:30 p.m., which was after you applied for insurance?
With that statement, I would say that it was primarily towards the fact that there was monetary compensation involved into it. I was naive in the fact of saying, like, I felt that the insurance company was there to help me find the motorcycle. I didn't expect any compensation from them. And when it got down to the detectives letting me know that this is what this is why this case is being seen as such a priority, is because of the consequences to you not telling the truth and lying. And so for that situation, I would say I was naive in how insurance worked.
If you felt that the insurance company would be involved with helping you find the motorcycle, why did you not report the theft until approximately, I believe it was 12 days after you had signed up for insurance for the motorcycle?
I don't think that's correct. I believe the motorcycle was stolen 12 days after I purchased it.
The motorcycle was stolen 12 days after you purchased the insurance policy?
No, the motorcycle was purchased from the day of the purchase. It was stolen, I believe, 12 days or 2 weeks afterwards.
On what date did you inform the insurance company that the motorcycle had been stolen?
It was the day that I found out that the motorcycle was stolen. I called in and reported it.
And then why did you call law enforcement if you felt that the insurance company would be helping you find the motorcycle?
Just trying to seek out as much help as possible.
What have you done, or how can you ensure the board that you will not engage in any dishonest conduct again?
Since my probation, I have been at my position where I started off as an intern. Let me a trainee in my master's program. And I have advanced my way up to from working with children to at-risk transitional age youth, ages 16 to 25, who are diagnosed with severe mental health illness, as a pre-licensed clinician there. And from my position there, I have been able to advance into a lead clinician position. And currently, I have staff that I oversee who look up to me, and I also volunteer every Saturday to assist young children in learning and to read and write in a different language. And prior to this, I never imagined myself being in such a position where I could make decisions on my own. I could rely on my own judgment and be able to be a support to others. And from that, I really value my position, and I value my licensure and the process that it's taking me to be able to continue to maintain it. So I hope that answers your question.
Why are you seeking early termination of your probation?
I'm seeking early termination of my probation as every year I'm required to pay a certain amount to continue to maintain it, which is a financial burden on myself. And in additional, I'm also paying for my individual psychotherapy as well, in addition to all my other daily in life expenses. I have not only completed the requirements that are expected, that were required of me, but I continue to grow and maintain what I've learned throughout this process. And with that, I'm requesting the early termination of my probation.
Have you fully paid the cost recovery?
I believe I'm doing $100 payment every month. I believe that's what it is from my, sorry, there are different terms used for different fees, so I'm not sure if that's the $2,500 that I have to pay. There's a probation monitoring fee that I pay yearly, which is $250, I believe, and then there's the something fee that I pay $100 a month.
It might be the $100 a month as part of the stipulated settlement. Item 18 or condition 18 was cost recovery, that you should pay the board $2,525 for the reasonable cost of investigation and prosecution of the case. Have you completely paid that $2,525?
No, I think I don't know the current balance of it, as it's just deducted automatically from my account. And it's set up to just take out $100 every month. So I think it's pretty close to it, hopefully.
One final question. Have you been convicted of any offenses since you filed your petition for early termination?
No.
No further questions.
There are now open questions for the board. Dr. Chu?
Thank you. In answering the question, you said about just being naive for your irresponsible act, and you also mentioned you saw your therapist. You probably talk about it, and I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more. In the therapy session, did you talk about that more extensively, like what insight you gain, like why you did it? It's just, like you're satisfied with the simple answer, just being naive and committing that irresponsible act. the reason why I'm interested in answering the question is just like our attorney asked you, like, if we don't know why you did it, then, it's hard to deal with the question, would it happen again? So if you could offer us some answers.
Sure. So, in therapy, that what I worked on with my therapist is that with that incident occurring, I just felt like I had no avenues of support, nothing to go to. And so this was just something that was like, oh, okay, let me get some insurance. Everything will be settled. At least they'll look for it. The person who took it will be brought to court, whatever it happens, and at least there would be some sort of justice being able to be met. Again, I didn't want naive to be seen as a way for me to justify what I did at all. What I did was irresponsible, and I didn't tell the truth. And so I definitely deserved what the court had brought forth to me as far as the requirements that were required of me. Did that answer it? It doesn't seem like it satisfied your answer.
You did, but, it's the same as the previous answer. So, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, good morning. I have two questions for you. One, it was just interesting to hear you say that, you didn't look at therapy for yourself, even though you're in the field. Would you continue to seek therapy after, if the board does grant termination?
Even when my probation was told where I wasn't required to complete therapy, I still sought it out on my own. So yes, I do feel that I'm in a position where I am capable and I'm able to go and seek it out on my own, regardless of the requirement at this point. It's almost like a little taste of it. So yeah.
And then my second question is, I'm a public member on this board, and so if the board was to grant termination, how can you guarantee the public will be safe, that these types of behaviors that you explained in the past wouldn't happen in the future?
Throughout this process, I've learned the importance of my licensure and all the hard work that I put into being able to get to the position that I am right now. I don't want anything to jeopardize it. If there's something that I don't understand and I'm not fully aware of, I'm going to go out and learn about it on my own. It's not going to be a matter of like, oh, I didn't know. I'm not a child anymore, and I've learned to accept that.
Dr. Whitlisbach.
Thank you. Hi. You just said, I'm not a child anymore. And so my question speaks to your maturation process from the time that the incident happened until now. And I was just wondering, you had said early in your testimony something to the effect of your family used to take care of everything for you. They made all your decisions. They paid your bills. So can you speak a little bit to how things are different now as far as you being more independent? And
Sure. So I'll just use my example of being able to be here. This is my first, I wouldn't necessarily consider it as a trip, but flying in from San Diego, it's the first time I've done it on my own. I've never gone anywhere without my parents being there or a male family member or an older sibling around with me. So I've gotten to the point where I hear out my parents and their concerns and be able to voice my decision and my what I would like to do. And we have learned to kind of battle back and forth until we come to a common ground, as in like, I'm going to go over there and I'll be back and this is where I'm staying. And I'm also staying I stayed at a hotel last night on my own So this right here signifies the amount of work that I've gone through with therapy and underlying the basis of how my life was pre-conviction. And again, I don't think I would have been able to get this far without therapy.
Okay, one more question. I think I read, tell me if I'm wrong, that you had to complete a law and ethics course as a term of your probation?
Yes, I had to, sorry, that was really exciting.
That's okay.
Yes, I completed, I believe there were a certain amount of credits of law and ethic courses. I completed them prior to me coming before the board for the modification of my probation, yes.
I feel like you have a better understanding of those issues now that you've completed that course.
Fully, not only from completing those courses, but I'm also in a position of supervising other clinicians and other specialists as well, who often come to me to ask for my advice on how to ethically approach, handle a case or legally handle a case. So I have to ensure that I'm aware of that as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
My question is, I have a bit of a disconnect between your therapy and what you discuss in therapy and the reason you're on probation. So my question is, and I reading all of the therapist reports, and your claim that it was you were just naive about the law that created this unlawful act. So can you explain to me where in your therapy you're talking about, or how the therapy has helped you, that you don't become dishonest? This was a dishonest act, as you stated, and as it is stated in here. So how has that helped not engage in dishonesty again? Because I'm not seeing, that's what's a disconnect for me. I understand the cultural issue, and that you're working on that and that issue, but I don't necessarily see the connection between why you were put on probation and the act, and how we're going to be guaranteed that that act, through some of the things we put you on probation for, is going to be resolved. That makes sense?
So, just so that I'm understanding correctly, so you're asking me where the piece of me being dishonest won't occur ever again?
Correct, because that's what we have to be assured of before we take you off probation.
For sure.
It's not necessarily have you come and resolved cultural issues. That's not why you were put on probation. You were put on probation because of fraud. So how have you progressed acknowledging that you did engage in that, so that we know you won't do it again?
So, I know that I've been placed on probation due to my dishonesty, due to the fraud that I committed. And within therapy, I think that that was the turning point in my life that I needed for the therapist to be able to pull out those underlying reasons as far as how I would deal with society if I don't have the support of being left on my own. So I started off in a family where everybody made the decision. So then I'm trying to differentiate and be able to make decisions on my own. And at that point, I wasn't able to make any decisions on my own because I obviously didn't know how to make a decision, and how that if I'm being dishonest, that it has severe consequences on not only the public, on myself as well. And so within therapy, I was able to identify that my way of going about blaming constantly that I wasn't grown enough, I wasn't an adult enough, I wasn't mature enough to understand how the world works, that was always my safe go-to. Like, I didn't know, I didn't understand. And with therapy, I was able to know that I can't rely on that. I can't say that I didn't understand something. I need to make a conscious effort to be able to go out there and educate myself. If I don't, then these situations do happen. And I'm not willing to put the public at risk, and I'm not willing to put myself in this position at all ever again. And I understand the consequences to my actions regarding that.
Okay, thank you. I think you answered my question.
Thank you, Ms. Wong.
Hi. I'm trying to make a connection about, about your desire to get into this profession and your testimony that, you mentioned that you didn't need therapy. So, I'm just looking at, the timeline, so you actually get your intern registration back in 2012. So have you done any therapy prior to getting your intern registration?
I did complete some psychotherapy as required by my master's program, so I did complete some there. And I don't know if I was at a state of maturity at that point to understand the benefits of therapy. And again, it was like minimal requirement where it was just, I believe, 24 or 25 hours. I didn't feel like I even had enough time to establish a connection with my therapist during that period of time. Whereas with this requirement, I was able to develop that. My rapport building was like probably a good 6 months or so, yeah.
So, so if it's not for therapy, you're probably, not coming, to realize that, how you mentioned about, you being naive and, recognizing, the family, background and your cultural, how it affects, your behavior. So now, fast forward. So what kind of job that you're doing right now?
Right now?
Can you tell us
Sure.
maybe a little bit more about your employment history?
Sure. I work at an outpatient mental health clinic currently, and I work with at-risk youth ages 16 to 25 who are diagnosed with severe mental health illness. At our program, we work based off of an ACT model, which is assertive community treatment. So we have a team of specialists who will assist each participant in different areas of their life. We're one step down from a inpatient hospital setting. So I'm one of the lead clinicians who supervises and manages one of the 3 teams at our program.
So is this the job you got after you told your license? So I think your license was told in 2015?
No, once I've been in this company for a very long time. So, I was with this exact, program before I left to study for my exam, and I was told for 4 months, and then they called me back at the children's program, same company, but the children's program. And they called me and they said they had a clinician on maternity leave and if I was willing to be able to provide some assistance as far as coverage goes until she returns. So I said, sure, I'll be able to provide that assistance. While I was there, the clinician came back from maternity leave and then the other program in the same company was granted an additional funding to be able to create a 3rd team, and they needed a lead clinician. So then they extended that position over to me, and I was able to create that team from that
So tell me, when do you start working with this company, and when do you start, performing your job as the lead clinician?
I started working with the company, I will say April 2011. I started as a trainee I was doing my practicum at my master's program. And then in October 2011, once I completed my master's program, the supervisor from the TAY program decided to hire me in, and I was there. Then I left for 4 months, then came back to the children's program, then transitioned to.
So you have always been working for the TAY population?
Not necessarily just the TAY
But the
population.
children
The
also?
children's, children prodromal symptoms as well.
Okay. So you started therapy in January 2014. So, and that's the time when you really start digging into, your personal, what we talked about, the cultural and your individuation and, in that area. So I am wondering, in that case, if you started, at 2011, and how did you find yourself? How effective that you think that, you're. What really I'm trying to get out of is that now you're also for the, regardless it's children or the TAY population, a big job is really to help them to individuate and to help them find their identity. However, we're also talking about, a clinician, hasn't really quite worked through, their personal stuff. So how do you navigate it? Do you find that, your personal experience, what kind of impact it has, on the service that you provide?
Okay, so is that my personal experience during that period of time?
Yeah, because, let's just, frankly said that, you haven't quite individuated. You haven't really, worked through your own, finding your own identity. And sometimes, as therapists, it's important that, you have the tools, you be able to work through your own stuff, in order to be an effective therapist. And so how does it work for you?
Just being required to have the supervision to monitor my cases where they were challenging and being able to bring them to discussion, that did provide me assistance and guidance as far as being able to appropriately care for my clients during that time. And I think I don't know if that answered your question, kind of.
So sometimes, especially for teenager,
Okay.
we know in the process, it's not just about the teenager acting out behavior. It's not just about, what they do. Oftentimes it really ties with, the family dynamic. A very similar challenge probably you're personally going through. So, so it's important for the clinician, not to, be able to work through it, be able to have insight so that, the clinician can avoid having the countertransference.
Exactly.
Right? So, so I'm just wondering, because, when I look at the time-wise, you started therapy, after you're actually, being placed in the position of working in that population. So I just wonder, just help me, make sense that, how is that your personal experience affect, the work that you do? So I'm not sure, you answer my question yet. So I want you to give me more.
Sure. So, again, pre me being required to take psychotherapy for myself, 2014. Prior to that, again, I sought the assistance and guidance of my clinical supervisors and my program directors to provide me assistance with those cases. Again, in working with the TAY population in the sense that they're one step down from inpatient hospitalization, we primarily work on developing it's almost like crisis stabilization for that moment. It's very rare that we get a chance and an opportunity to be able to go so in depth into the client's emotional and emotional experiences throughout life that every day it's just constant on-go, and being in a program where you have a caseload of almost 40 where you have to meet with weekly to bi-weekly, it came down to just quick sessions and having the rest of the specialists be able to assist and provide support there. So if there was anything clinically that I felt that there was a challenge, I was confident enough to be able to bring that into group supervision, also in my individual supervision as well.
All right, thank you very much.
Hi. I have a few questions. One is, you were talking about supervising. So what supervising? You said teams, but are they interns or trainees or just staff?
The clinicians are also pre-licensed therapists, and then there are employment specialists, they're paraprofessionals, employment specialists, housing specialists, case manager, peer support specialist, and a co-occurring specialist as well. I'm not signing off on hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, I wanted to check on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, there's somebody else who's doing that. right?
Yes, there's
Okay.
someone else, there's
All
a
right.
clinical supervisor.
In terms of your acculturation, I just want to say that that's great that you're acculturating, and it would have been fine that you didn't acculturate. I don't think there's anything wrong with people relying on their families. It's a different culture, and that's not wrong. But I'm not seeing the connection between your individuation and making a moral decision. I'm not convinced that it's just ignorance. It feels like to me that you tried to slide the system, mainly because there was a 12-day delay. Like, the car was stolen, an hour later you get insurance, 7 hours later you call the police, 12 days later, 11 days later, you contact the insurance company and make the report. That just looks like pure dishonesty to me, not just being irresponsible or not understanding the system. I want to check with you on, was it you being dishonest in some way?
I would say that I was dishonest throughout the entire process of it. Yes,
So
completely.
that was like you
Yes.
knew you were doing something wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because that's not what I had heard before.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure that that term of naive was not the best term that I
Okay,
used.
all right. I mean, there might have been some naivete when you said you didn't know they'd be giving you money. But it's sly.
Yeah.
You know, like trying to get your insurance after and then reporting it so much later down the road. Because I would have thought if it was just naivete, you would have said, hey, I need to get insurance on my motorcycle that just got stolen. That would have been naivete to me. That you waited tells me that you were trying to do something dishonest.
Yes, I was
Okay.
dishonest.
Okay, I just wanted to check that piece. What worries me is that you're saying that you wouldn't engage in a dishonest act again because it could harm the public and it could harm you. And what I wanted you to say is because it's wrong. Like, you just don't do immoral and dishonest things. It's wrong. It's wrong for society. It's wrong for everyone and everything. And I don't feel reassured right now. Please reassure me.
Okay. I guess it goes without saying that if I didn't want to hurt the public or hurt myself, that would be wrong. That would be absolutely wrong. That I wouldn't want to do that to anyone or harm myself. And I would never want to do that again at all. So what I did was wrong, and I would never want to wrong anyone or society or myself.
Okay. And then the other piece is your culture doesn't make you lie and do something dishonest. There's lots of really honest people from your culture.
Yes.
And lots of non-acculturated people who would not have made that choice to make that report. So I think back to where Peter was trying to go is, what made you lie? So yes, you were naive. I get all that. But it's like stupid teenager, hey, I wanted what I wanted. Was that it?
I just thought that I don't know how to describe it right now. It wasn't that I wanted to put the blame on my culture as far as my culture made me do it, more of that I don't I shouldn't have made that decision. I should have understood the consequences to my actions.
So you've said that before. And it's kind of a lower level of morality. A higher level of morality is, I mean, I guess I want you to I get that you understand that you shouldn't have done that. I get that. But I'm just not hearing that you have insight into why you told a lie that broke the law, right? There's people tell lies all the time, but this was a big lie, right? So I'm not hearing what caused you to do that.
The reason why I said it was just a little bit difficult for me to be able to describe it all right now is that it took me a great amount of time in therapy to be able to understand that why. And the why isn't as simple as me being able to give you just one answer as far as this is why I did it and that's it. It came down to I did it to be able to show another person that I was able to take care of them. And I was not able to even take care of myself or take care of this relationship that I was in.
You were thinking you were being grown up by taking that action, even though it was illegal.
Yeah, it sounds so strange right now because it's just like, it's ridiculous at this point for me to go through this whole thing and be like, really, why did I do this? You know? And why did I think that that was okay at that time for me to play grown up and play house and say, this is a relationship and I'm going to make it work by showing my other partner that I can make these decisions, but it was a stupid decision that I made. It caused, it was illegal, it was dishonest not only to myself, but to others as well. And I shouldn't have been playing this role in my life at all.
Okay, so now I'm starting to see the connection between the naivete that you thought being grown up was taking care of something, even if it was dishonest at the time. And your naivete is that you were lacking sort of the moral ground at the moment to take care of things like that. Thank you.
Ms. Pines?
I just have a comment. You've answered so many questions, and you've answered all my questions. I want to congratulate you on how far you've come and the the energy that goes into separating from your family and knowing that that's just something that you need to do now or needed to do then is huge. And I think that you've come a long way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the panel? Ms. Mantle, do you have any additional questions?
No additional questions, just a correction for the record. The report to the insurance company was 2 days after respondent had obtained the insurance policy and had contacted law enforcement, not 12 days, but it was 2 days later. I want to just correct the record.
Yeah.
It's based on the information in the accusation. It was 2 days later.
Okay, so is there something you need me to strike out and amend in your
No, just in
exhibit?
regards to my statement.
Okay.
Just a correction.
Thank you. Anything further, Ms. Jaume?
Actually, I think it's actually in here that it's 12 days. Just if that matters, I would
Ms.
assume.
Samantha, did you say you were getting that from the accusation, the original
I was
accusation?
looking at the original accusation, and could be my failure to do math correctly, that on
Oh, you're right, 2 days. Sorry.
page 5, it was
Sorry.
2 days later, not 12.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. That concludes the hearing in this matter. The record is closed and the case is submitted. Thank you very much.
I believe that the exhibit was admitted. Was that correct, John?
We did, yes, we admitted it at the beginning.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take a 10-minute comfort break. Thank you very much. So we'll come back on at about 11:50. Thank you.